Now, there's been another uptick in the country's unemployment rate. Statistics South Africa says the country's jobless rate rose from 30.8% to 32.5% between October and December last year. eNCA's business editor, Devin Murugan, joins us for more. Of course, the picture remains bleak, Devin.
Yes, it does, very much so. I mean, the unemployment rate was 30.8%, the last measure, and this is exactly what happened. About a few percentage points higher this time around, largely expected given the impact of COVID-19, but that's your percentage point in terms of the official unemployment rate. These are people that were actively looking for work in the country. That measure comes in at 32.5%. What does that translate to in terms of the number of people looking for work? 7.2 million. But that doesn't give the total picture, Masego, of the amount of people out of work in this country. Let's flip over and you'll see what the expanded unemployment rate looks like. That takes you up to 42.6%. What does this mean in terms of numbers? 11.1 million people in this country are out of work. And Masego, these also include discouraged workers. The situation, of course, was expected to rise. Of course, not a very pleasant picture, but having that figure of people not working in this country is indeed a frightening one.
Devin, there's also that issue around the fact that this comes on the back of the pass rate announcement regarding the class of 2020, and one would wonder how many of them would be lucky enough to be absorbed into the economy.
Yeah, well, that is the million-dollar question, and I think that you're quite right when you say you've got matric leavers coming out of this country. Let's zone in on that bracket in the next page to show you what their prospects are. Now, we particularly look at this bracket, 15 to 24 years old. That unemployment rate sitting at 63.2%. It's a rise from the last measure we checked. And, of course, you know, they a restless crowd. A lot of the analysts that you speak to talk about the fact that this is a ticking time bomb. So we've had those matric pass rates, which was better than expected, by the way, mentioned yesterday. But this is the reality that they are confronted with. That bracket that they're stepping into, especially between 15 and 24, the employment rate there sitting at 63.2%. One wonders if the skills they come out with after matric is aligned with the economy's needs. And that's been perhaps the most asked question, as opposed from analysts and some of the activists on unemployment, Masego.
And Devin, we're also often told that we have the worst unemployment rate in the world. So how do we compare internationally?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and of course it's been a given for years now, and when you try and do this analysis comparatively, I'm afraid we always come out not looking that pretty. Let's take a look to see what we are sitting like on a band that just considers the so-called BRICS countries. That's Brazil, Russia, China, India, and of course South Africa. China, 5.2% in terms of its official rate, followed by 5.8% in Russia. India, 6.5%. By the way, all of these countries have nudged up a little bit because of the impact of COVID-19 and the impact on these various countries' economy. Brazil, a bit worse off compared to the other countries at 14.1%. But just look at that gap between South Africa and the rest of the BRICS countries. 32.5% in terms of South Africa. To answer your question, I mean, by whatever measure, we are indeed one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to unemployment. And that too, Masego, at 32.5% is just the official unemployment rate for the country. As I said, 11.1 million people out of work when you consider their expanded definition.
Very bleak picture of our country indeed. Thank you very much. That was our business editor, Devin Murugan.